Hear that? That's the sound of a patient whose health data is protected from a cyber attack. And that's the sound of a financial system that's digitally secured from bad actors. Right now, there's an invisible war being fought on a digital battlefield that impacts what we do every day. That's why at Peraton, we do the can't be done to help protect the vital systems we rely on. Because if we don't, the alternative is unimaginable. Peraton.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Direct-to-Video Connoisseur. I'm Matt. As always, I'm joined here by Jamie.
Yes, you are.
How are you? Jamie and I, we sometimes have a conversation. We call. We do our Skype call about 10 minutes before our show starts, and we usually have a nice conversation, and our conversation went a little long, so Brian just had the hello. That's why there was a gap between the ending of the theme song. And I didn't even get a chance to tell Jamie we were going live. We were just chatting about stuff, and I just kind of went on the air, and then I was like, "Oh, we've got to go." So that's what happened there.
Yep, that's our catch-up time.
That's what we do. Yes, we have our 10 minutes in between, and then we get ready to start it. But so Jamie, how are you doing tonight? How's it going?
I'm doing okay. I've got a little bit of a sinus headache.
Ooh.
I think things are starting to come alive out here, and of course, this is my first spring in Michigan, so I really have no idea what to expect compared to spring down there. So there could be all sorts of horrible things awaiting my sinus passages.
Yes, I know. They talk about lake effect snow. Is there lake effect pollen as well?
I don't know, but that'll be interesting to know. Now, down there, we have pine pollen all over the place, which is, bright yellow, and around March and April, it just covers everything in yellow. Like, you cannot walk outside without getting yellow on you, and your car gets covered, and then if you, touch it and then accidentally rub your eye, then you're in for it. And you can see it blowing across the highway when you're driving down the
Yes.
street, just blow in like big yellow dust clouds. It's pretty horrible. So then you're praying for rain to wash it away, and then it'll run away in bright yellow rivers. But then the downside to that is when it rains, then more things bloom, and then there you go. It just sort of perpetuates the problem by giving you a little bit of relief. Kind of reminds me of the whole Jordy Verrill thing in Creepshow. It's like
Yes.
he's like, oh, it would feel so good just to get into a tub of water, but then he gets in the tub of water, and then he's just he's all plant. So.
Yes. Oh, what a mess.
But I don't know what it's going to be like up here. I just took my car to get it washed today and got all of the grime and the salt off of it from driving around in the snowy bits, and she looks all pretty and clean again, so that's nice. My car was like, what in the hell is all of this?
Yes. Oh, I'm sure.
She's never seen anything like this before. So the melt is almost completely done. There are, patches of snow here and there where it has built up into, tall hills, but for the most part, it's gone.
Mm.
And it's been sunny and warmer. It's been in the 50s for a couple days, and mostly in the 40s, but it's nice, and I'm enjoying it. Got a little spring fever going on.
I know. I was going to say we had today. It was in the 40s. Jen and I took a walk up to Wawa, which is that anybody that lives in the Delaware Valley region, Wawa. But for me, I'd never heard of it until I came down here. It is the most amazing thing ever. It's a convenience store. Not all of them have gas at them, but it's a convenience store that sells like coffee that is as good as Dunkin' Donuts, which is sacrilege for me as a New Englander to say any coffee is as good as Dunkin' Donuts. But this stuff is the real deal. And they make these amazing hoagies, which like you think like a convenience store place would make crap for hoagies. Like they just it's like amazing. So we took a walk up there here in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. It's outside of Philly. There's like a Wawa on every block. So sometimes 2 blocks have a Wawa, it seems. So we just went there and took a walk there. It was colder tonight than it was yesterday. We were in the city yesterday and it was in the 60s, and we were enjoying that. I got my Shamrock Shake for St. Patrick's Day.
I
So
forgot to do that.
yes, I'm half Irish, and I've been trying to lay off the sauce a bit, not drink so much, and I didn't want to do the Guinness. Plus, around here it's hard to get beer. You have to go to a bar, and the bars around here are not the nicest places to go into to ask for a pint of Guinness. So I was like, let's do the Shamrock Shake thing, and I had my green John F. Kennedy 35th president hat that I got at the JFK library. So I was very very like not just Irish, but New England Irish, for that half of my lineage. I don't know. Maybe for Bastille Day, I should be celebrating Bastille Day for my French heritage. Maybe this
Cover all your
July.
bases.
Yes, exactly. I'll start walking around with. I guess would you wear red or blue for French? And yeah, I
I've
guess.
got some Welsh in me. What I would do, though, I walk around screaming like Christian Bale. Is that?
You wear a leek on your head for St. David's Day. I believe you wear a
Oh,
leek on
okay.
your head.
There we go.
Yes. So that's what you do for the Welsh. St. David's Day. I think that was in one of the Shakespeare plays. I think it was one of the Henrys, whatever Henry the whatever numbereth. But Sir Falstaff was giving some guy a hard time that had a leek on his head, so the guy gave it back to him.
I remember when I was in high school, our Latin/German teacher was Catholic, and the high school that I went to was about 80% Jewish,
Hmm.
and there were very few Catholics. And he came in on Ash Wednesday with ash on his forehead, and of course I was Baptist, didn't have a clue, and everyone kept all day long. He's like, "You've got some schmutz on your head." He's like, "Yes, I know."
That's awesome. I've there are a lot of things about being Catholic that I have just never done. I've never done the Ash Wednesday thing. I've never put the hash on my head or the Palm Sunday thing. When I was little, I would pretend to give things up for Lent, but I never really did. I eat meat on Fridays, red meat. And I know this time of year,
That's what that means.
yeah, and Lent, of course. You notice this time of year, all the fast food joints are bragging about their fish sandwiches because during Lent, that's when they really that was like the whole fillet of fish was invented to keep Catholics at their restaurant chains during Lent. And so yeah, so that's those are things that I don't do, and because I've also never been confirmed, so that's a bad one. I think you're technically not a Catholic if you're not confirmed, which I don't know. I guess sometimes I'll go to church for things like funerals or funerals.
Does it burn when you walk through the door?
Yeah, it hurts a little bit. It's not as bad as Stephen Dorff in Blade, but you feel it a little bit. So and I'm always like I'm on the wrong knee, I'm doing the wrong cross thing. I'm just kind of mumbling, because it's a very for Catholic Church. You think of when you think of interactive churches, you think of like the mega churches down south, or some of those things where people are up and they're singing and they're yelling.
Or the Pentecostals.
Yeah. But the Catholic Church is a very interactive experience as well. You've got to be like, "Peace be with you," also, and so I'm always like mumbling my way through it, and and part of me feels bad, but then usually when the priest gets up and does this sermon, and I start to like listen to all of the things about the religion that I was not a fan of, I start to go, yeah, this whole ethnically Catholic thing, even that doesn't really work for me. It's not.
It's funny. When I was growing up, when I grew up Baptist, and then when I was in high school, I started going to this Methodist church. and the Methodist Church is kind of a weird bridge between the Protestants and the Catholics. It is Protestant, but it's they do like they did Lent, like they you gave up things for Lent and stuff like that if you wanted to. Um, but they're slightly different. Like in the Baptist Church, you have to be a member of the church to take communion, whereas like in the Methodist Church, you just whatever, you can walk in off the street and take communion and all this stuff. But anyway, when I went to college, a friend of mine was Episcopalian, and she said, you come to the Episcopalian service with me, and I was like, okay, I've never done that, so why not? So I did, and wow, that was an experience because it was like basically calisthenics. You're up, you're down, you're kneeling, you're standing, you're, and I'm like, my goodness. In the Baptist church, we spend the majority of the time passing notes back and forth, trying to decide what we're going to have for lunch after church. And you write on the church bulletin, where do you want to go for lunch? And you pass it back and forth, and you don't, as a kid, I mean, you're not paying all that much attention during the sermon because they just droning on and on. But here, like you don't have that luxury. I mean, they keep you busy, make sure that you're paying attention. And then they had communion, and the way that they called us down was row by row. Well, it just so happens that I was sitting on the end of the pew that we were on, and I was at the beginning of. I'm like, oh, great! I can't even watch anybody to see how this is supposed to be done. I have no idea what I'm doing. So the little guy around first with the wafer, and I'm sitting watching how everyone is kneeling, and they're kneeling and they have their hands clasped, and I'm watching them to see how to do that. But then he comes along and tries to put the wafer in my hand, and I was like, oh, okay, sorry. So I took the wafer and popped it in my mouth, because in the Baptist church, it's two separate things. You take the wafer first, or the piece of cracker or whatever and then you get the grape juice that comes around separately. So it's two separate things. Well, so I popped it in my mouth, and my friend who was next to me, she's like, no, like, oh, okay. So I took it out and dipped, and the next guy came around with the chalice of wine, and I dipped it in the wine, and he was like, oh my God, because I just pulled it out of my mouth. I was so panicked. I was just like, I'm so sorry. And then I popped that in my mouth. It's real wine, and I was like, oh shit. Because we'd always just use grape juice. That was just the way you did it. So I made a complete fool of myself. And I was like, I was just looking at the guy, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And he just laughed, and he's like, don't worry about it, it's okay. And but I was so embarrassed. I'm like, yep, there you go. That's not how you do it. So anyway, if you are not Episcopalian or anything else, and you go to another service, just make sure you're at the end of the line, or at least somewhere in the middle, so you have some idea what to do. Otherwise, you do what I did and make a big fool of yourself.
Yes, because Episcopalian is essentially, it's what the Anglican Church, which is just the Catholic Church only allows King Henry VIII to get divorced.
Right.
That's all the British Church is the Catholic Church, only with the king at the head as opposed to the Pope. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so you get, I think you get most of the same rituals. Also, the priest can marry, the pastor or whatever can marry. They don't follow all the rules because they don't have to listen to the Pope all the time.
Yeah, well, my friend always referred to it as Catholic light.
Exactly. Yeah. And I always think of myself as Catholic light, but perhaps I'm like Catholic a la carte, But, like when it's St. Patrick's Day, I'm Mr. Irish Catholic. But when
yeah, she's like, that's the last time I take a Protestant to one of our services.
Yes. Well, now speaking of religion, right? We have a film here tonight with the main actor Elijah Wood, named after one of the prophets, one of the of the Jewish faith.
You are a pro.
Did you like that one, Elijah the prophet? Yes. Now I know there are many a young Jewish lass that would enjoy this Elijah the prophet to come to their seder, and no, I'll have to maybe ask Jen if I'm right about that. That seder, I think, is the one where Elijah the prophet shows up after he shows up at your dinner. You're supposed to leave a plate open for him, and then I got the confirmation. because that was the one that Seinfeld. Have you ever seen that
You
sketch?
didn't get the confirmation. That's why you're going to hell.
I did. Yes, I didn't get the compliment, so I'm going to. You're right. So I'm going to hell. But, well, I always remember that sketch Saturday Night Live where Jerry Seinfeld played Elijah the Prophet, and he like shows up at their house like, "Hey, I'm here to eat at your table," and he's like flirting with the daughter and giving everybody a hard time. Um, and so every time I hear the name Eli, I just think of Elijah the Prophet with that name, and so I guess that's where the segue came from. Um, so I want to start when we look at this movie. I want to start with the trailer where there is a very bold claim made about this film that it is the rear window of the 21st century. It's kind of this film generation's rear window. What do you think,
I think
Jamie?
that's bullshit.
Yes.
Well, oddly enough, when we were starting to watch this movie, it was very early on, and it was very in the very beginning of the film. He was still in his hotel room, Elijah Wood was. And it was during the part where the guy told him to look across at the other part of the hotel where because it was like an L shape and to look through the window over there. And so Brian was just he was getting to go out of the room. He's like, "What do you think, rear window?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, it looks like that may be where it's going." Well, it did not.
No.
It went nowhere near rear window, except to maybe jump out of it. I was. I want to formally apologize. I am so sorry because to you, I mean, for making you watch it. I don't know what you thought of it. I mean, we haven't talked about that yet, but it's
no.
not really what I was hoping it would be.
I would not put this one out there as apology worthy, just because I think when we think of apology worthy, I think some of the ones that I have chosen that are apology. Now Brian's saying about apologizing to him as well, but I kind of feel like
He gets no apology.
yes, no, but I think some of the transgressions that I have made here, one. I've chosen some that are much worse than this one in my mind, at least. But two, seeing that that it had Elijah Wood and it had that dubious distinction, and maybe that was gonna doom it from the start to call it the rear window of our gen. I mean, the only thing that I was trying to think if there was anything Hitchcockian in this, not to just throw that cliche term around. But the thing for me about this movie, yeah, again, it's not apology worthy. Maybe there should be standards of badness for our films, and I guess I feel like this is one that I don't I'm not saying that you should ever have to apologize for the movie you chose, but I kind of feel like I have some on my resume that this one doesn't quite fit into that cat. If this was one that I chose for us, for example, I don't think that what I mean. We wouldn't be looking at it as like, Matt, this is the worst thing you've ever chosen.
Well, no. No, I mean, no, and it's not the worst thing we've ever watched. It's just that there were a lot of things about it that left me kind of scratching my head as to what in the hell are you watching? And a lot of it really reminded me of a video game.
Yeah.
And it's like, the video games where they're like, you'll meet a guy in the video game, and he's like, okay, now this is what I want you to do. I want you to, and actually I kept referring to this as Grand Theft Auto because there were a lot of things about it that reminded me of like GTA or Watch Dogs for anyone who's played that, which is basically GTA with hacking. Mm-hmm. So this, I guess, is more like Watch Dogs in that respect. But it's just like you meet a guy in a video game, he comes up and he's like, okay, this is your objective. I need you to go here and do this and implant this. And then you're wondering, you're playing the video game, these people ever do anything for themselves? Mm-hmm. In video games, no one ever does anything for themselves. They always have you do it, regardless of how stupid it is. And then he was like, okay, well, if you need me, call me. I'll be over here. And so then they give you your directive, and then they go away, and you can contact them if you need to, but usually they're not very helpful when you contact them. And then they'll show back up and have you do something else. And that's what this reminded me of a lot. And the graphics didn't help. the constant on screen, which I thought was kind of interesting. On one hand, I liked what they were attempting to do as far as having all the windows open, and then in the background you could see his desktop photo,
Hmm.
which was the actress that he was spying on. I thought that was kind of cool. Um, in a lot of ways, the graphics looked the like video game quality, and then but what really got me, what really just tore me up inside, was how convoluted the whole thing was.
Yes.
And then by the time you get to the end, I'm just like, oh, fuck off. And we're watching this movie, and Brian's like, ah, fuck. Well, I was going to give it a 2, but now it gets a 1 because the ending just pissed us off so bad that I'm like, get out of here,
Yeah.
and it just felt really long. Like, why are we still going? Why is this? Every time I thought it was going to be ending, which it would come to like what would seem like it could be a wrap up kind of thing, then it would just inexplicably keep going. Like, what's wrong with you? Why are you still going? So I don't know. I mean, I don't I don't hate it. I'm not saying it was a terrible idea. I think they just didn't know how to wrap it up. I think they didn't really know what to do with it. I think it feels like they started with an interesting concept, and then like maybe it would be sort of like a rear window for this generation, which is a neat idea. But I don't really. It felt stumbly toward the end, like they were just tripping over themselves and couldn't decide what to do, and so they just kept going, and then in the process they lost me.
Yeah. Boy, yeah. Like, part of it was like it seemed like that beginning took forever, and there's just a lot of moving parts with that beginning. Like you said, it could have been an interesting concept. I mean, we know that these things happen, that these what they call ratters, right? What is it? Remote something control. There's people that can control other people's they can hack in and control people's webcams and spy on them. It happens to women. Like, I guess like the main way it happens usually is that if a girl downloads, like, or maybe they do it to guys too, I guess, to control their computers, but you download a bad program. You think you're getting something for free, or you're getting something that allows you to cheat at something or whatever, or free music or whatever, and then you've ceded control of your computer, including the webcam. And especially with these Apple computers where you can't tell that your webcam is on, it can be a really scary thing, and the concept is very scary. But we didn't really get that here. We didn't really get the idea of that. It was very like the whole thing of like hacking into her things to do things. It was a very like it was all within the matter of a few hours that it was being done, and
Hmm.
it was so quick that you didn't really have time to be creeped out by it long enough. And I think that's
Right.
isn't that where a Hitchcock would have done a better job with this, because he would have made this creepiness go on for a matter of days. There may have been a montage clip of Elijah Wood's character, eating snacks or doing whatever and spying on his this beloved, his this star that he has, and maybe even trying to justify it to himself why he's spying on her, that because he's such a big fan or something. And
I would have liked it more if it was something that he was actually, intrigued by, it, I didn't really understand, or I didn't feel like he had a solid motivation for what he was doing, for his part in the whole thing, and I didn't believe it.
yeah.
Like I I didn't believe him, and I don't know. Well, then it turns out when you get to the end, well, I was gonna say that all makes sense, but it kind of still doesn't.
Hmm.
um, but I would have liked it more had there been more suspense, had it been, you know, or any had, to kind of build that up and give you the feeling that it's kind of creepy. I like the idea that he was hacking into her phone and could read her messages and watch her FaceTime and listen to her calls. I mean, that's a really scary concept. But like you said, it just happened, and then I'm like, what? Wait.
Yeah.
I also like it when they give you a little bit of believable technology, um, like, or when they present it in a way that really feels like this is happening,
Right.
not just in a, this is, I mean, because some of the things he were doing were like magic computer stuff,
Yes.
like magic TV computer stuff, and well, if you want me to really be creeped out, then limit it to what you really can do, which is still gives you plenty of scary stuff to work with. But I think it just kind of went over the line.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I mean, I think, this could have been like I think if you had done it if it had been instead of this like guy with this, I mean that's the thing is it devolved into this whole like thing where like you and Brian talking about the magic computer thing and I mean this happens too. I've noticed with movies
Oh,
that
did
have
he say that? Did he say that
he
in the
said
comment?
yeah it kind of flashed up there yes like when we first start yeah I mean there's that I remember a movie that a Dolph Lundgren film that was on USA called Blackjack where he was protecting a model from a stalker. And it was a similar deal in the sense that the stalker is like ultra sophisticated and is just kind of like I don't know, like it can do all of these great, these crazy things that I don't, it's just like the whole thing that like he's doing all of this stuff for this girl to I guess like what he was going to try to have her in the basement with him. They were going to be locked together in the basement forever. But
Yeah.
I just, like
Just weird.
yeah, I mean, I think it's creepier. It's worse. I mean, for us in a society, the idea of just somebody being able to hack into somebody's webcam and spy on them is creepy and scary enough that you don't need to do the whole elaborate. Oh, there's a taser in the. I mean, what was that whole thing where he was?
Oh my God.
He's in the hotel room and we've got the whole. It's a whole setup thing. It doesn't need to be a whole setup. What if it's just Elijah Wood has this website for this girl, this famous actress, which, I think it was also, I'm not sure what they were doing with her as an actress. I couldn't tell if she was supposed to be like a big star or if she was supposed to be maybe like one of those like up and coming like B or C list stars that tends to be the one that really attracts those real obsessive ones because they tend to be the ones that are able to interact or want to interact more because they're so happy they have fans.
Mhm.
It's another aspect that would have been more believable.
Yeah, and like I couldn't decide if I was supposed to like her
Right.
character or not.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to give a damn about what happens to her? Because in the beginning she was kind of a bitch.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I'm like, is she like what is she? Is she like a Kristen Stewart kind of celebrity, or is she, because she kind of had that much personality going on. Well, which is a shame because I actually like her. And but of course, before this, she is, she's trying to go mainstream. This is a porn star, or I think she was mostly softcore, but I think she did some. I'm not sure if she ever did any hardcore stuff, but so she's trying to go mainstream here, and I don't know that this is going to help.
No.
I don't know if that's gonna propel her into stardom, because it just, I don't know, what we did see of her wasn't all that compelling.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who has made the jump. Brian's saying it's hard as hell. I mean, we know Tracy Lords, right? She did it, but she was so infamous. I mean that was the story in the '80s, one of the biggest stories in the first half of the '80s or whatever about her. I mean she really put one over on the whole porn industry.
Hmm.
So I mean, yeah, if you're that level star, Tracy Lords, Ginger Lynn Allen did a lot of direct-to-video stuff. But obviously she didn't break into the mainstream. I mean, it seems like yeah, I don't know if you can really go that next level. Again, unless maybe you're Tracy Lords. But I mean, this movie, I think. I mean, from her standpoint, I mean, I guess there is the fact that there isn't a lot of, there is there's a little nudity, but nothing crazy, and there isn't any like overt sexual stuff or overt sex scenes or anything like that. So at least on that score, it's a film that maybe she could kind of used to separate herself from being a softcore porn actress. But on the other hand, like you said, there isn't a lot of material for her to really show off what she can do because I think this film it shows where the limitations are of a man writing a film that is supposed to be the. I don't really know if this was supposed to be her story, but it was supposed to seem like it was trying to deal with issues, of like men's feeling of entitlement to females, to women stars, but to women in general. The whole thing about being the nice guy and the girl walking all over him. Uh, he does all these things for her, and all she wants to do is just ditch him on the date and all of that stuff. It seemed like it wanted to touch those issues, but because it was the guy writing it. What was his name? Nacho.
Libre?
Yes, no, I was trying to think of his last name, but he never fully got there with any of it. None of it was fully fleshed out, and again, it's the kind of thing that would have been fully fleshed out. I think if we had something that was, I don't know, if we want to say more Rear Windows type, we don't necessarily need to go that far. But if you want to do something that was more along the lines of something Hitchcock would have done with this material, I think if you've got Elijah Wood, who's this super fan of this actress, that he's got a page dedicated to her, he ends up, going down this rabbit hole of using her hacked webcam and spying on her like this. And then I don't know what happens. Maybe he sees a murder happen. Maybe she is killed. I don't know. Something happens. And then, but maybe something happens where he falls into her sphere of influence by some other way. Like maybe she reaches out to him for publicity, and then they start to know each other. And now he's got to come to terms with the fact that he's been doing, whether he wants to come clean or not. I don't know. I don't know exactly what you do with it, but at least you've got room for character development. Where here, you've got neither. You've got no real character development, but then you've got this whole, I don't know, whatever this was that we had, where it's just sort of, it took too long to play out, which again, I mean, if we're talking about needing character development, we had all of this room in here. I mean, we had these guys where were they, in France or whatever? And we had this hacker named Nevada, which again, is it Nevada or Nevada? They never, again, for an hour and a 100-minute long movie, they never touched on that, and I guess because they had French guys calling him Nevada, they never had to deal with that issue, but it would have been nice to maybe flesh that out a little bit, whether we say Nevada or Nevada. But we don't even know what that was. And then, of course, he ends up being the main character or something at the end. I don't know.
That convoluted. That's what I'm saying. They did too convoluted for their own good.
Yeah. They didn't know they didn't know what to do with themselves, because they had essentially with the bad guy, because of what we termed computer magic. Through this computer magic, they'd essentially created Superman. They created something omnipotent, and they didn't know what to do as far as kryptonite. And so they had to write in their own kryptonite as it was. They had to invent kryptonite. As they say, it was the flaw in Superman as a character. They had to invent kryptonite. It's kind of the same thing, only what they did is they kind of Kaiser Sosa'd the kryptonite in there.
Only it didn't work that well.
It didn't work. Because we've seen Kaiser Sose. We've seen Kevin Spacey walking out on the street.
We saw him lose that limp.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. I was about to say, or was it gain the limp? Well, you can't not having a limp.
Right, exactly. Right.
It's like I normally have a limp, but I'm going to walk straight.
Yes.
No, that doesn't. Yeah. And like you mentioned with the taser thing, and then the whole basement room, and I'm like, are you kidding me? You're gonna what?
Yeah.
Seriously, you think no one's gonna open this hatch door at any point ever? Someone's gonna, especially if you do this big explosion thing. I just am kind of, and then you've got guy who owns best servers in the whole world. Like, he is king of computer servers. One has any equipment better than him, and he can do anything he wants. And I'm like, get out of here.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want it to be creepy, if you want it to be scary, make it remotely realistic.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because there are some things that I think that were wasted here that were kind of cool, like I said earlier with the hacking into the phone, that's pretty cool. Like the fact that Elijah is trying to save her, and he's got these guys who are, using their equipment, and they can track and tell. And because, that can be exciting, if you're like, okay, now what? And then, they're like, okay, turn left. And then, that was kind of cool. But then you had this weird infighting thing with French guys where suddenly he wanted to help the bad guy. And of course they thought that Elijah Wood was the bad guy, and then they found out that he wasn't the bad, and but then he wanted to help the bad. I'm like, what? You've got one French guy kicking out the other French guys because he's on his own mission now because Nevada's so awesome he can't let him go down, and I'm just like, I'm so confused. And then it turns out that I don't even know. I mean, I can't even piece it together properly in my head now because I have to draw it out on paper to attempt to map out all the plot twists going on here.
Yeah.
And, newsflash, adding a bunch of plot twists does not necessarily elevate your plot.
No.
That's not the point. Cool plot twists are good, but you have to put them in there with some skill. There's a movie called that came out in 2006 and stars Colin Hanks. And this, I think, is a really well done stalker movie about a guy who sees this chick and he wants to get close to her. So what he ends up doing is he ends up breaking into her apartment and putting in surveillance cameras. And then because of the things that he learns while watching her through this surveillance, he ends up getting close to her. And that is a really well done, creepy movie with stuff that you can actually do.
Mm-hmm.
And it just sort of adds to the creep factor that that this is a very realistic situation. And I've actually seen things on the Murder Channel where people have done this. Ex-boyfriends or like on Stalked Someone's Watching, where an ex-boyfriend or an ex-husband will put surveillance equipment in their ex-girlfriend/ex-wife's house and do creepy shit for real. And that is scary stuff. This here, I didn't have a chance to really build up any tension, or to be shocked or surprised or to care. And then, because it was just like a flurry of things. And then when we got to the end, it went in so many different directions that I just couldn't keep up. And then I got to the point where it didn't really matter anymore.
Yeah, and you make a great point too, because I know there was a Japanese movie that I saw that was like a romantic comedy that did the same thing. It did this guy lived next door to a girl that he liked, and he had her place bugged. And in this case, it was like supposed to be kind of silly, and he ends up seeing that her boyfriend is a douche, and I believe like he tries to kind of like out him for being a cheater or something. But what he does is like he uses the camera, I guess, to find out what she likes, and then he brings her all the things she likes. And I remember how it resolved itself, but it was the same thing. Like you're saying, it was using, there was nothing space age or magical about it, and yet it had plenty of creepy. I mean, this was supposed to be kind of like a goofy kind of, like
kind of like a girl dresses up like a boy to join the soccer team, ends up falling in love with the guy, and then
Yeah, wasn't that that was based on a Shakespeare play? Wasn't it too? As
Right.
You like it? Yeah.
Yes. And there have been that story has been told numerous different ways. I mean, hell, there's Yentl.
Yeah. Yes.
But basically you infiltrate the life of the one that you want to be close to. You actually end up being close to them, and then you have to figure out how to continue to be close to them without freaking them out when they find out how you got close to them. And but it's never nefarious. It's always, perfectly innocent. It just ends up looking really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like those stories.
Well, just one of the guys.
I think those are, yes. I always think those stories are kind of sweet, and I always pull for them. And of course, they always come out on top in the end. But yeah, your Japanese movie reminded me of that. Just like the infiltrating, but for good reasons, not for creepy reasons. But still, that's freaking creepy. I mean, I do not at all advocate spying on anyone to try to get close to them. That is not the way to do it.
No, but your point is a really valid one as far as this movie goes. That you don't need magic, you don't need. I don't know what they were doing with the whole camera thing and like these like what was it like it looked like they were from speaking of Superman, it looked like the flying parallelograms, like a collection of flying parallelograms to create an image. I don't know what the hell that was. We also like one of the things that made me write down Rear Window being way better, what you were talking about with Brian, where the scene where point your camera across and look at the other window there.
Hmm.
At least in Rear Window, we could see, people in there and see what was going on a little bit better. We could recognize Grace Kelly or whoever across the way. And of course the idea was we're supposed to not know what we saw, right? When there was when the murder happens or whatever happens, we're supposed to not know, but at least we can kind of see things clearly. It's not like frosted glass and whatever else was going on there that just distorted things. And then you talked about the whole video game thing. I was getting seasick. It's like, there's a point where cutesy editing tricks and things like that give way to us our need for like some legitimate cinematography and some camera angles that can let me see what's happening and a clear image of something. It's like you get to that point where you feel like you're driving and something is like you're driving and you had somebody put a flyer on the windshield and you can see, but it's kind of blowing around and it's really starting to annoy you and you start feeling like you want to pull a TJ Hooker and just kind of climb out in the dash and grab it and hop, but like you don't do it, but it's like that kind of thing, watching this kind of stuff. And there's a point where it's like maybe it just gets away from you when you're the director and you're adding things in. And I mean, like I said, the film was called Open Windows, which I think it would have been nicer if it was open windows and we were kind of seeing Elijah Wood and then seeing his computer on a separate, like different takes. But again, we're talking about a whole different movie that we wanted to make that this movie wasn't. So.
Right. I mean, yeah, pretty much. If you change everything, then I would like it. That's what.
Mm-hmm.
uh, um, and I'm really disappointed in Elijah because he has been making some really good choices lately. Uh, I loved him in Grand Piano. I loved him in the Maniac remake. Um, and he has and even going way back to Sin City, you see how creepy he can be. Like he has the capacity to pull off both innocence and charm and sinister creepy. He can do it really well, and he can do them in the same movie. And um, that's what I was hoping for here. I was hoping for some of that, and I didn't even. I was the whole time. I'm like, why are you doing this movie? Why? Why? Who thought this was a good idea? I mean, I guess someone said, "Ooh, I like Rear Window. Ooh, what would make it new? Open windows. Get it? Windows. Yeah, let's do that." And then they just sort of didn't know what to do with it. It's a mess.
Yeah, there's no better way to sell a film to an actor, I think, than to describe it as you use a better director, and you
Right.
use one of the best directors of all time's name. And when you think of the movie, you think of a thriller as a genre. It doesn't really get any better than Hitchcock. So you throw those names around and say, "This is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do that." As an actor, maybe you think that things are going to be a little different on the editing room floor, but I got to think when you see that plot twist, and Elijah Wood, he's right there, reading the lines in the plot twist. He is the plot twist. So
Right. He's playing both roles.
yeah,
I
I
mean, so
mean,
he kind of knows. At that point, I would have been like, "What?" But at that point, maybe the paychecks are already being cash,
yeah.
and he likes paychecks, which I can't really blame him for. But it's just he's been on such an upswing lately, and he has
Hmm.
this whole his little company, which he's. I don't think this is actually part of his company. I don't think this is one of his films,
No,
but
no, no, because it's the other guys.
his company, and he's trying to throw money and make horror films, and he's not been sucking. I think it's pretty cool. And then all right, well, one other film that he threw money at was Toad Road, and that was, oh Jesus, I hate that movie. It's a really god awful film, watching people drop acid and watching their acid trips, and it's supposed to be a horror movie, but it's really not. And I don't like these people. I would never hang out with them on purpose, so I definitely don't want to watch them get high. It's very, just it left a bad taste in my mouth. I just didn't like it at all. But
Hmm.
for the most part, I think he has done some good projects. And No, this was not one of them. Like this disappointed me, and it made me sad because I was really looking forward to this film. I mean, the reason that I suggested it to you is because I had been wanting to watch it for a couple weeks. It had been in the Netflix queue and or my list or whatever. I keep calling it the queue because I will always call it the queue. Um, and this, was the perfect opportunity to have an excuse to watch it, you know. Yeah, I wanted to watch this anyway, so why not throw it in? Because it is a direct to video film. It's on Netflix, so let's throw it in. And yeah,
Well, the trailer for sure, I think, had me on board. Because that's what after we talked about the film, I watched the trailer. Jen and I were going to watch this one together, and it just didn't shake up this week that we were able to do it. And I think that was for the best. I told her that too. She seemed at points disappointed. I said, well, if you want to watch it, we can together. But I think now when she's going to hear your take on it as well, I think she's going to say for sure to pass on it. But I know she's likes Elijah Wood too, and so I think we were both thinking of it. And you watch the trailer, and the trailer does give you that Rear Window sense. It gives you the sense that there is this guy who has kind of made a Faustian bargain, if you want to say, or he's gone down the rabbit hole of spying on his beloved actress that he idolizes and is obsessed with, and then happens to see her get killed or get kidnapped, and he's got to figure out what he's going to do to save her. And I think that would
have been a good movie.
It would have been a good movie. It would have worked, and I think
I mean, and in a way, it kind of was, but your movie sounds a lot tighter
Mhm.
and more watchable, whereas they threw in a bunch of extraneous shit that we didn't need.
Yeah.
And just confuse things. And I think Brian is probably going to develop a deep hatred for Jen because she keeps missing on
He's jealous. He's jealous.
She keeps dodging these bullets,
No,
and he gets shot in the chest every time.
She did get Drive Hard last week. She did get that one, and she was very she even brought that one up again about John Cusack, because we were talking about actors. We had a conversation about Robert De Niro in the films he did with Scorsese, because I think I was talking about something else. With DiCaprio, with the films that he did with DiCaprio, and we were kind of doing a count to see who he did more movies with at this point. And I think it ended up being De Niro 7 and DiCaprio 5, so it's still more with De Niro. And I made a comment about, man, he's got to do a couple more with De Niro so DiCaprio doesn't catch up. And she kind of, made a face because of, some of the direct-to-video choices that Mr. De Niro's been making lately. So
Yeah.
it's kind of is it worth it for him to be doing that? But then she brought up John Cusack, what are these actors doing? How do they choose roles? And, I was talking about Bruce Willis, for example. Bruce Willis does all kinds of films, and it's once a certain name is attached to a project, because she was talking about a movie that James Gandolfini did. I'm all over the place. A horrible movie that James Gandolfini did that had Robert Redford in it. So the moment it had Robert Redford, all these other actors kind of, it suddenly gave the film a certain amount of credence that it got a lot of other actors involved. And we didn't necessarily see that here with Elijah Wood, but you kind of wonder what causes an actor to attach themselves to a piece. And I mean, this character here, this Elijah Wood character he was playing, we were thinking, I at least what I thought was, I thought it was going to be that whole, again, I don't want to use the cliche, but that Hitchcockian idea of the ordinary man slapped down into circumstances that he has no control over, and he's got to decide whether he wants to fight or die. He's got to decide, North by Northwest, Cary Grant, what are you going to do? Rear Window, again, Jimmy Stewart, what are you going to do? You're in your wheelchair, you're trying to heal the busted leg, what are you going to do? And I thought that's what we were going to get. Elijah Wood, what are you going to do? And instead they went Kaiser Sose on us and copped out of the whole thing. Completely copped out of the whole thing. And so, I if you're Elijah Wood, you're going to sell this movie to us as that, as what I described there, as the ordinary guy, just a regular fan who is thrust into a situation that he doesn't have any control over, that he doesn't, there are things going on here that he can't just wish his way out of, as they said in From Dusk Till Dawn. And that's what we were hoping for. And instead, the film, by using the Kaiser Sose and the computer is magic, all of that stuff. And I think maybe because the computer was magic, they couldn't write the film that they wanted to. They couldn't write that film that is, there was no way for Elijah Wood to defeat the baddie in this because of the whole computer is magic thing. There's no way he could out magic the computer. They had to create Kryptonite. They had to create another character that could out magic the magician.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's a good. They kind of painted themselves into a corner there when you make something so all incredibly powerful. How
Yeah.
can you defeat that? You have to think about that when you're constructing a story. And it's almost like they were making it up as they went along, and they're like, "Oh shit, now what?" And oh, I know. How about this? And someone was not there to go, "No, not that,
Right.
not that, anything but that."
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe that's, I don't know. I mean, you get the sense that a lot of these directors, I mean, this guy, I wish I could, I went to look up his name because I know the first name is Nacho. I'll never forget that name. But it, I can't remember the last name. But Nacho Vigalondo, that's his name, Vigalondo. He was the director and writer. You get the sense, I mean, he named his main character.
Of course he was, because he wrote this, and no other director's gonna.
Right, exactly. It's
Like, are you fucking kidding? I'm not doing that.
But also, nobody's going to tell him to stop it because the whole thing's his
Right,
project.
right.
But I mean, I mean, he had the audacity to name the female, to name Sasha Grey's character Jill Godard, which is great. After I'm sure another one of his favorite directors. But you get the sense that he probably has watched every Hitchcock film, probably watched them from when he was younger. From when he was a really, probably a kid going to the movie theater to see them. So he probably knows all of his films inside and out. And I think that's maybe what disappoints you, from a director and a writer that seems to know the films that he's trying to emulate or try to like come, from the same mold as, to get it so wrong. It's almost like it's worse to have it be from him than from somebody else that's showing you that they're just trying to rip off or just trying to play on these things, just don't get it,
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe we're putting too much thought into it. I think we put more thought into it. No, I mean, they had to think a lot to come up with all this crap. So, oh,
Nacho. I know. The other thing too I wanted to mention is that main character, the English guy's name was Cord, and I don't remember how Jen and I had a conversation about that. Somebody on TV's name was Cord, and I was joking, like, I don't know if that seems like the weirdest name for a person is Cord, and I don't even, what is it short for, or is it just Cord?
I don't know. I that may be just it.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely. I was a little bit surprised to see that a Cockney accent, be Cockney accented Brit, have that name, because it sounds like along with Brock, and I guess Matt, it's the perfect college quarterback name, Colt.
Right.
Brock. Yeah, and it seems like there are a lot of Matts as quarterbacks. So I guess but yeah, it just new starting quarterback for the Texas Longhorns, Cord. So I don't know. Like this film, I guess, yeah, it was sautéed in wrong sauce from the beginning, I guess. The trailer had the trailer been fulfilled, I think we would have had a good movie.
I think so too, and that's the thing. It's one of the things I say all the time is, simplicity is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just have to. It's like, okay, this movie is like that woman who just keeps piling on the jewelry before she goes out of the house, and she doesn't edit herself, so she's wearing like all these bracelets and all these necklaces and these really gaudy earrings and these things in her hair and the anklet and the glittery belt and the studded purse, and you're going, settle down. Sometimes you have to edit yourself.
Yeah.
And you just have to pull off all the extraneous accessory. And I think that dude just got carried away, and he was just rolling around in the bling. He kept bedazzling this movie to left and right, and you know, you'll drown in it. So, stop it. Keep it simple. Tell a simple story in a simple way. Yes, it can be new and fresh, and you can use technology to be inventive, but just settle down.
Yeah. Yeah, you bring up a great point. This is you know, uh, when this former coach, former NFL coach Herm Edwards, he does this. He'll go to like these rookie symposiums where they talk to new NFL players, and he talks about them spending too much money on their first contract, and he's like, one piece of jewelry, that's it. One piece of jewelry. You only need one chain. Don't go buying all this, getting the platinum, this and the diamond. One piece of jewelry. I think directors, we should hold directors to that same rule. I mean, again, if you're a director who's got a few under his belt, if you're Scorsese and you've done a whole bunch of films, when you get into Goodfellas, you can do that long one take underneath the club and back up into the Copa, and it's great. The whole thing was great. I love that whole thing. But if you're Nacho Vigalondo, lay off a little bit. One necklace. We'll say one necklace for right now. One piece of jewelry, and then maybe on that next contract you can start to add. But maybe at that point you realize you're an older, more mature football player. You don't need all that jewelry.
Hmm.
And I think you're right. I think he needed to edit himself, and I think that's maybe something that all directors need to think about is editing themselves.
Yeah, and then hire an editor who will tell you the truth.
Right. Yes.
Who won't just go, "Oh yeah, man, it's just great."
Yeah.
Ah. And tell Jen, watch Alone with Her. It was on Netflix. It might still be, if it is. And I recommend that film. I think it's done pretty well, and it's a very simple story. Definitely pared down from this one, but I think she would kind of dig that.
Probably like this better. Yeah. Then.
Um, and Colin Hanks can pull off creepy too. By the way, that's. But yeah, this one I cannot recommend it. I really can't.
Wow.
And like Brian said when we were watching it, well, it was gonna get a 2, but now they fucked themselves up and it's a 1 because that ending. I just wanted to drive over to wherever this guy was and punch him in the face.
Yeah.
I'm like, why did you do that?
Well, we know why he went Kaiser Sose
Oh,
on it.
right, yeah.
No,
Yeah.
but you
Someone should have told you no.
yeah.
Someone should have slapped your hand and said, "What are you doing?"
Yeah. Yeah, we've what it is, we've run into a whole series of like like we could almost do, like, if we had a course at a college campus on filmmaking 101. This film overall, right, if you were to take this film on a whole, right, without like really delving into the plot and all of that, it looks nice. The film follows a solid linear pattern. The actors do their thing. It's not like some of the ones we've seen that just kind of look like they were thrown together. But as you get into the film and you start watching it, you realize that this film is just a wrong turn after a wrong turn. And we think about that whole scene where he's driving the car and it's showing the arrows pointing, telling him where to go. That's kind of what this was. The arrows were telling him, where to go, and he was turning the wrong way. The hotel thing, the thing happening in the hotel, it became too big, too convoluted, because they had a character, a baddie, who was too big and too convoluted. They added too many bells and whistles, like you said, too much jewelry. They didn't, okay, we've got too many characters. We've got all these little flashy computer things. The computer can do everything we need it to do. I was waiting for us to hear that Cord bad guy in the background have an Earl Grey tea manifest itself for him. He wasn't able to do that, apparently. I guess at this point the computer still can't generate food for us. But I was waiting for that, Oh, I've got a 3D printer that prints my Earl Grey tea for me as well, But but then of course it made the biggest blunder, which is to write yourself too big and not be able to finish, to wrap it up. And they went with the only thing they could do, which it worked in The Usual Suspects. And I guess it worked in The Usual Suspects because the story was better. That movie played the thriller aspect much bigger. these were there was scarier, much scarier and more tense moments in The Usual Suspects than this film. And this film was supposed to hinge on us having our hearts racing,
Yep.
Yeah, and so then when the big reveal happens, when we get our Kaiser Sose moment, we're like, hey, whoa, that's crazy. Oh my God, Kevin Spacey, I didn't see it coming.
You remember the moment you watched The Usual Suspects for the first time when he starts walking away and then that limp goes, your jaw hit the fucking floor.
Yeah.
I mean, just across universally, everyone was like, oh,
Yeah.
and it was a wonderful moment. Oh my God, it was so good. It was Bruce Willis's dead moment.
Yes.
It was, okay, I can't say people living in the village were really present day moment because that doesn't
No.
it wasn't that good, but it was just one of those iconic moments that you can't do it again. You'll never get it back. You realize Norman Bates is his mother.
Yes.
That moment, it was amazing. Okay, this movie, you just you don't get it. You
No.
didn't.
No,
you did it all wrong.
Yeah, it was. It felt like it was kind of like, oh, we need to end the movie. Let's do this. And they took the shoehorn and they jammed it in there. And it's like, no, your feet, buy the larger size in the shoe. Don't shoehorn your feet in there. And that's, it just, yeah, the whole thing didn't work. So. I guess no. You said you were going to give it a 2. Now is it at a 1 officially?
It's a 1, yeah.
It's a 1.
I mean, I can't ask anyone else. Plus, it's freaking long.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, it feels like it's really long because it is really long, and of course,
Yeah.
it's only like 10 minutes longer than your average movie. But that's fucking long when it comes to this.
Yeah.
And I can't ask anyone else to do that. I made you do it. I feel bad enough for that.
No, because I was fully on board with you with this movie. This was not a you made me. You gave me a list of options, and I saw the trailer for this and said, this is what we're doing. So,
All right. Well,
yeah.
I cannot in good conscience ask anyone else to. So, no, this is definitely I will tell you flat out to avoid this movie.
Yeah, I'm still with the 2 just because my rule is that I only give 1s to movies that are like overtly racist or really badly, sexist or some other problematic thing. That's my rule. But this is close to that. This is this is in that ballpark, and I think a big part of it is while this isn't as bad of a missell from as far as the trailer goes, this is pretty close. I think when it comes to the trailer misselling the movie, this was not what we were given in the trailer, and not as bad as Ambushed or some of the other ones we've seen or we've seen before, but I think that really upsets me, and I think maybe puts it closer to the 1 for me as well. That we were hornswoggled here.
Yeah, I mean, what they should have said was, you're gonna get this, but with a whole bunch of extra crap you don't need.
Right. Yeah, and really you're not even gonna get this, right? Because he wasn't really
in the end,
spying
you don't
on her.
really get that.
He's not spying on her. He is being forced by the other guy to spy on her and do things. So yeah,
which other guy who has bought his ticket to go here, who has put him up in this hotel room,
right, exactly.
Who has, I mean, God, shut up.
Yeah.
It's just shut up.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Stop it.
No, it's bad. Yeah, so stay off this. This if you want to, keep your eye out on TCM for when Rear Window's playing again and just watch that.
Right. There you go.
All right. So Jamie, what have you been up to as far as the other podcasts go?
Well, we are about to release episode 103 of The Skeleton Crew, which initially was going to be a discussion about 3D films because it was 103, and we but Dave, one of my co-hosts, came up with the idea that it would be a cool to just discuss 3D films, and then we ended up not doing that. What we ended up doing was doing a review, a very lengthy, in-depth review of Friday the 13th Part 3, which was in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to be massive, and I think pretty good, though, because there are 4 of us on this show, and we pretty much dissect it from one end to the other. So if you are a Friday 3 fan, this is likely going to be like one of the definitive, discussions about it, just because I can't imagine what we would have left out. I think we pretty much talked about everything. And so that's coming out at some point. The new Devourer will be coming out. I just don't know when. There's a new Evil episodes coming out where we talked about, and that might even be coming out today, but it is, if not, it'll be very soon. But in that one, we discussed 2 movies, along with our regular TV lineup discussion. We discussed the film Torment, which is available on Netflix, and I recommend it. It is a good film. It's a home invasion film, which I don't typically get very much out of, but this one I really liked. And the other one was crap. Oh my goodness, Buddy Hutchins, the new Jamie Kennedy movie. That is not good. It is not good.
Wait, are you telling me that a new Jamie Kennedy movie is not good?
I know, shocking, right?
Wonders never cease.
But this is what I said was his character. Remember his peeing on the bush character from Harold and Kumar? This was like a whole movie of that guy. It's what it's what it reminded me of. But it just sadly, like, Sally Kirkland was in it, and sadly, because I like her, but it was just not good. And it tried to be kind of like Falling Down, only it just fell down. Man, I should have used that when we were talking about it the other night. But so that's that. That'll be coming out sometime soon. And then, of course, we talk about Bates Motel and The Walking Dead and stuff that's on TV now.
Yeah, speaking of Bates Motel, I mean, I haven't watched that show, but Jen and I were very disturbed or very, very upset to hear that there's a cover of Depeche Mode's "Enjoy the Silence" being used in the commercials for the show.
Is there? I haven't.
Yeah, I
think I've paid attention.
It sounds like a young Irish lass singing the song, but it's like slower, and I don't know. It doesn't have the Depeche Mode. I don't know. I hear so many covers nowadays of songs that
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And what I have noticed that what they'll do is they'll take a song from the 80s. They'll give it a cover, but it's usually a slowed down or an opposite sex from what it was originally.
Right, yes.
If it was a slow song, they'll speed it up. If it was a fast song, they'll slow it down. And I guess they're either expecting people won't notice, or what they're aiming at a younger generation who may not recognize the song immediately, and they're going to be like, "Oh my God, that song's so cool!"
Yeah.
And I'm over here going, "What? What are you doing?"
I know. I mean, in the '80s, I guess, like in the '80s, all of our, there were so many big ones in the '80s and '90s, like Taco putting on the Ritz, and Naked Eye is always something there to remind me. Was I guess
on
one.
The Ritz.
Yes, I mean, I don't know, but I mean, and maybe I'm trying to think of some of the ones in the '90s too. I don't know, Aaron Neville's "Everybody Plays the Fool," but I don't really know. Like, I'm trying to think I'm sure there's some big ones that I'm missing right now. Big covers, but it just doesn't seem like, I don't know, there's something crass about it now and I guess with the fact that like so many artists are being sued by other artists, older artists, for ripping off their songs, that I guess it's safer just to pay the artist and do a cover and call it good.
Yeah, I was watching An Evening with Kevin Smith. Brian was showing that to me, and it's actually very funny. But it's when he was doing the tours around college campuses, and take snippets from that, and college kids would ask him questions, and then he would respond. And he was telling this story about working with Prince, and how Prince went off on this tirade about when, and he brought up how when Whitney Houston did a cover of Chaka Khan's song, how he was like, "You think Chaka wanted Whitney to do that cover? She didn't want her to do that cover. Chaka mad." And Kevin Smith's like, "Chaka mad?" And he's like, "Oh, Chaka real mad."
Didn't that make Chaka a lot of money? Because that song was huge.
Right?
When she covered that song, that was bigger than it was when Chaka Khan first did it.
I think that's why probably Chaka was mad.
Oh my God. Oh man. Well, I mean, I would say that's probably the place to. I mean, I don't really have much to report, of course, on my end. I'd say like that's the perfect place to leave it, is at Chaka Mad. But for as far as my stuff going on here, I'd like to get a blog post out soon here But it's just,
Still haven't with the.
I know the legendary. The images are on my thing here. It's just I've
I
been.
think that blog post is becoming legendary.
I know the Matt blog. I know. And I did post on Facebook that the KNS fanfic, erotic fanfic, titled "Boldly Gone." Yes, I should have the new episode of that one coming out soon. I'll just give you the basic rundown just to set everybody up. Campsite, McCoy, Spock, Shatner, case of Romulan ale. It's going to be big, so I'm sure.
Sold.
Yeah, everybody is so be excited. It's going to hopefully it will live up to the expectations.
I'm gonna send a link of that to the commander.
Right? Yes.
She will shit.
Yes.
Oh, and if you haven't yet, please check out the newest episode of Liking It, because there
yes.
we talk about Wolf, but we also talk about 2 movies which are spoiler free, Wolf Cop and Late Phases, and so I recommend that show. It's my show.
I see
Of
Wolf
course
Cop.
I recommend
Yeah,
it,
Wolf
but,
Cop is in my notes from last week, so definitely check out that Liking It. All right, everybody. Well, so thank you all for listening. Hope you all have a great night, and chuck-a-mad.
Chuck a real mad.
Chuck a real mad. Hashtag chuck-a-mad. All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Hear that? That's the sound of a patient whose health data is protected from a cyber attack. And that's the sound of a financial system that's digitally secured from bad actors. Right now, there's an invisible war being fought on a digital battlefield that impacts what we do every day. That's why at Peraton, we do the can't be done to help protect the vital systems we rely on. Because if we don't, the alternative is unimaginable. Peraton.